Morning, guys. I'm gonna make a weekly review. We had a busy week. We had news every single day. So starting on Monday, we had 10 o'clock news. Now, I'm not gonna go into much on the higher time frame levels for Monday because we chopped around. We didn't have any displacement inside my window, which is 9:30 to 11:30. So if we have 10 o'clock news, I'm waiting for after 10 o'clock news, 10 to 11:30. That's my window. Now, as you can see, we just chopped around in this range, not really displacing inside my window. So Monday, we didn't get a trade. Now on Tuesday, same thing. We had 10 o'clock news, and before I even go down the charts, I'm waiting for this to drop. So I'll go to Tuesday. Now, this is a little sauce on how I use opening range gaps, which is if you go down here to regular trading hours and you draw yesterday's close, which is this one, to New York open the next day. Tuesday is open. And as you can see here at 9:45, around 10 o'clock, we are at this lower quadrant, this 0.25, and we're making a fair value gap right before 10 o'clock. So I'm waiting for 10 o'clock to drop, and right here, I'll go back to you. At 10 o'clock, we have this gap here, and this gap here. So whenever there's two gaps that are small like this, I'll take the upper one and put my stop at the low. Now, looking to the left, this is a hourly buy side liquidity pool. So I'm going to target, premium gap. I see this unfilled gap here. You can target that or these smooth highs. As you can see, we didn't touch that hourly buy side, that massive wick, but these, this consolidation, these smooth edges here, that's where I got out on Tuesday. And I'll show you the execution. Long at 10:20, took some off at this imbalance, and then off at this consolidation buy side liquidity pool. So that was Tuesday's trade. Oh. So Wednesday we had 8:15 and 10 o'clock news. Now, whenever we have pre-market news, I'm open to a 9:30 setup. So whereas if it's just 10 o'clock news, I'm waiting for 10 to drop and then hunting displacement. But if we have pre-market news, as you can see here, we had this little gap at 8:15. And then 9:30 taps that, and then I don't have to wait for 10 o'clock to drop. Even though I waited, I'm taking this setup here because the gap is obvious, and we had that narrative of the pre-market. So high to low. I'm interested in, the fair value gap at 50% and OTE. I don't really take the deep retracements. Many times that they'll leave that open, and that's what happened today. So Wednesday, stop there. short there, stop at the high, go down to a 1 hour chart. I was looking at this big imbalance. If you check out my Instagram, I showed before and after. Like these aren't random levels. I'm looking for these in real time. So stop above the candle of the 0.79 because it's usually not going to come up there. Target that internal range, and that was a 2R, and it hit, you know, into the close, like 4 o'clock. So that was Wednesday. Now Thursday, same thing. We had 8:30 and 10 news. So before we even get down in the charts, I'm aware of 9:30 open. So I can take a 9:30 setup, or I'll wait for the silver bullet 10 to 11:30. So as you can see, we didn't really displace until 10 o'clock. Also, I want to show you some sauce on the regular trading hours on Tuesday and the rest of the week, because it came into a big factor. So as you can see, at 10 o'clock, on the day that we're waiting for 10 o'clock to drop, we're displacing through the midpoint and 3/4 of this down gap. So if we start displacing through this, then that tells us price is probably going to have a bullish day. And then I saw all of this liquidity to target, and you know, you could hold a runner for that high. So the following day, where we took that short, here's the gap down. We don't come up to the midpoint. We tag the lower 3/4 quadrant, and then immediately start displacing down through that new week opening gap, and that tells me that we're going to have a very bearish day, and we ended up doing that here. Now Thursday, same thing. Yesterday's close to today's open looks very similar to Tuesday. Chopped around the open. 10 o'clock news drops. We start displacing through the midpoint and the 3/4 quadrant. That's a good indication for bullish price action. So 10 o'clock here, let that drop. Now I could take 9:30 setups because we had 8:30 news, but as you can see, 8:30 news didn't really do anything, didn't displace. There's no real move there. But we used that build up of pre-market liquidity to run stops at 9:30, and then 10 o'clock, you know, displacing through those opening range gap levels I mentioned earlier. So these were the two setups in my window. Got long here, and then go to a 1 hour chart. It's looking at that high and this hourly imbalance. So enter here, stop at the low. Now I can start refining the imbalances on the M5 chart. So got out around here for 1.8 for most of my position, and then I think I held runners for like this buy side liquidity pool. So around you know, you could target that high. I just targeted these smooth edges here. So for a total of, you know, 3R, most of my position off at 2R. Now Friday, get rid of everything. This is how I knew it was going to be a killer day. Friday, if you don't know, we dropped 3%. We haven't had a move like that in a couple months. But again, yesterday's close to today's open. We don't even touch the lower 3/4 quadrant. I mean, we just gap lower and then we just knife down lower. I mean, there's no return to that gap. So just wanted to show you how I use the opening range gap for a bias, and for when to flip that bias, like when we're starting to displace through these levels. I think this week was a good week on how you can use regular trading hours. So Friday we had 8:30 news. Now I don't trade pre-market, but I'll always watch it and see what it's doing. So 8:30 news, we drop this. And since we have this big wick, I'll draw quadrants. Notice how the bodies were respecting that lower quadrant, similar to the regular trading hours principle, but used on a wick, because wicks are gaps. We reject that lower quadrant, we use this imbalance, and then we start displacing lower pre-market. We make another pre-market setup here. 9:30 open tags it, and then from this moment forward to 11:30, I'm looking for my model short. So at this point, 9:30 opens, and we had that massive gap down with the pre-market narrative in line. So I'll notice we have two fair value gaps. I don't know if you can see it. They're really small. One right there, and one right here. So I took the lower one, as I mentioned. If you notice from this high to this low, there's two gaps. So I'll take the lower one, put my stop right there. And then notice how we're respecting the midpoint of the upper one, knifing through it, and then, using these levels as an inverse going into the 11 o'clock hour. So on Friday, I was looking at this imbalance here, this daily imbalance. This was Friday. That was a hard candle. I mean, haven't seen a day like that in a while. And, targeted that imbalance right there for 2.38, 2.5 R-ish. And then we had another setup in here somewhere. Really small imbalance at 11:10. So that was the ultimate silver bullet here. You can short here, stop at the candle 1 of the gap, target that for 5R, or we can go down to a lower time frame, 1 hour chart. Look for levels, above that. So that doesn't work. So I'll go to the next hourly sell side above that gap I see is right there. You can target that for 3R. So that was the real silver bullet this morning on Friday. However, I got in early around 10 o'clock, held until around lunchtime for that daily imbalance. So I hope this was insightful. Just want to giving you a little sneak peek into my model and how I use regular trading hours for a bias. Hopefully you can start putting, I'm not going to spoon feed you how to do this. I just want you to see how I operate on a daily basis and maybe make something of your own. Maybe you see this pre-market setup and maybe I'll trade pre-market. Or you can trade 10 to 11. It's up to you guys. Pretty much from 8:30 to noon is the kill zone. You can tinker around with what you want to make of it, but I'll get into the outlook version of the video for next week. So starting on a weekly candle, Friday we had that massive knife down. I see that sell side we have yet to reach. So to me, next week we're going to open and seek lower. I see this volume imbalance and this weekly imbalance there. So on a daily chart, it looks like this. and we took pretty much the 20-day IPTA in one day, so maybe add the 40 for you to see. So we'll start seeking all these sell side liquidity pools, these gaps on the daily. We have a small gap here, small sell side here. So we'll just see where we're trading by. We have news on Wednesday, so we can let Monday and Tuesday print on the daily chart and then go from there. So we still have 2 daily candles, so by the time Tuesday comes, I'll update my Instagram on Dust Bus Trades, or where we're at and the levels we're looking at, and then we can go from there for our bias. But for now, I'll mark that this weekly sell side, and then if we start trading below that, then I'm looking for this daily imbalance here. And then beyond that, we have all of this sell side here. And you can see how we flip the IPTA 40. We displace through, wick down, touch the midpoint. So that midpoint, or discount of the range, looks good to me. So ultimately, these are the levels I'm looking at. I'll get rid of the IPTA if you want to copy that for next week. And I'll use that daily imbalance because it's right above that weekly volume imbalance I was looking for. And if I go down to a daily chart, I'd rather use a fair value gap than a volume imbalance for my drawn liquidity. So we'll just have to wait and see where we're at on Tuesday. If we're trading through all these levels and we seek sell side and these gaps down here, I really don't know. But these are the levels I have for next week. Good luck and good trading.